Thank you all. It's delightful to be here today. And I hope wherever you are, you can just go ahead and drop in your name and your city. And I'm going to talk to you today about a little
Mhm.
known phenomenon. We have all heard a lot about burnout.
Yes.
But burn in is something that I discovered
Oh,
during my
sorry.
time in big corporate,
Yeah, yeah.
and it kind of occurred to me when I saw what the workplace conditions was wrecking on our people. My name is Fiona Passantino. I'm a speaker, author. I write about AI. I write about the workplace experience. And if you can just drop in one word into the chat of how you are feeling today, not necessarily how you're feeling in your personal life, but how you're feeling about your job, just go ahead and pop that into the chat. And while we're listening to that, safe space here so you can say whatever you need to say. But almost half of us are experiencing stress on a daily basis. And more than half of us are experiencing stress that is becoming more and more intense. Our jobs are more intense this year than they were last year and the year before that. We feel this kind of creeping intensity. And especially now that AI is here, we are all expected to quickly stop what we're doing, take on this new learning workflow, and keep on going with our regular jobs. So this is all increasing the general level of our intensity. And then 65% of us feel exhausted by our jobs. So we come home from a day of work and we are absolutely finished. We can only just plop ourselves on the couch. We're not our best to our pets and our children and our partners and our friends. We're just kind of exhausted. And a lot of us also don't end the workday then. They log in after dinner as well. So our workday has increased. What happened is we saw that during COVID, people didn't have very much to do at night. They didn't go out drinking every night, of course. And so they just worked. And that level of productivity rose. The company life adjusted to that. And that level of expectation remained. So our working lives increased by the number of hours by about 1.4. So that is also having its effect. It's having an impact on our state of engagement. More than half of us are disengaged. A lot of us are struggling, quite a bit more than half, 58% struggling to manage everything. And a full 15% is actively disengaged at work. And these are some pretty high numbers. They seem to be stabilizing right now, but these are still higher numbers than we would like, of course, in HR. And we all know what burnout is. Burnout is when you simply don't have what you need to meet the needs of your job. And burnout appears in many ways. It feels like you're just absolutely depleted and you can't go anymore. It's basically your mind, your body telling you stop. You can't do it anymore. I'm sure people in this sector have heard of it. They've all had to deal with it, certainly by some employees. Many people have experienced it themselves. There are four basic kinds. There's the kind of burnout that is most obvious, which is where I'm just overwhelmed, overloaded. I can't take on any more than this. But then there's also other kinds. There's the under challenged kind, which doesn't always appear as burnout, but it's when you're just your repetitive work is just getting to you. You're not being challenged, not growing, you're not learning anything. You're doing the same task over and over again for a number of years, and it's kind of like you've been forgotten about in a corner. Oh, he does his job great. Leave him in the corner. He's happy there, and nobody's kind of challenging that employee. There's also neglect, where you're managing team, your manager or your team around you is not giving you the support you need to get through the day. And they're kind of dumping a lot of stuff onto you, and you just don't have the resources to get it done. So you do overtime in order to get it done. And then, of course, the habitual burnout is this kind of slow burn where all of these factors are just kind of creeping up on you and you don't even know it. That's when you end your workday and you come home to a very, very full life. You're taking care of elderly parents, you're taking care of children, you're taking care of other things in your life that demand quite a bit. So, A quarter of us are experiencing burnout, and there are many ways to get there, right? So I think we've all seen this, we've all understood this in our lives. When the workload is simply too high, there's not enough communication, it's unclear what you're supposed to do, your responsibilities aren't clear, and you and HR are the ones that are kind of the bulwark. You're the ones protecting your working humans and making sure that they don't have this kind of stress in their lives so they can be their best at work. Now, so we all know that, right? I'm not telling you something new. Burn in is a phenomenon where you're doing it to yourself. When overwork is kind of the norm, it's the expectation. This comes often with a high functioning team. So they have this very, very high standard of delivery, and everybody is kind of expected without anyone saying it that you are supposed to over deliver. And it's an unsustainable state. So over delivery is something that is kind of unquote required. And it's very, very dangerous because it's not something that managers feel they can control. Notice I said feel that they can control because there's actually a lot you can do. But it's when workers are doing it to themselves and you don't see it because there's this ethos, there's this kind of mythology within the team that says, we don't show when we're overwhelmed. We can handle anything. We're a high functioning team. We can take more. We can take more. And this really affects the high performers. It's not enough to just deliver. It's not enough to under deliver, of course, but we always want to over deliver every time we are given a task. And we see it in funny ways. Like if you squeeze a tube of toothpaste, it's not all going to come out one side. If there are holes in the tube, it's going to squirt out all over the place, right? So we're going to see it in other ways. We're going to see it in increase in drinking, increase in smoking, drug use, poor eating, poor sleep management. When I was in HR back in corporate, we had this very chill team, but extremely high performing. And I kept looking at them thinking, my God, these people, they're constantly over delivering. They're working really, really hard. And they seem so calm. But then I noticed how much they smoked, how much they drank, excuse me, how little they slept. And you saw it kind of coming out in other ways. So that was definitely raising flags for us in HR. So burnout doesn't come necessarily from the manager. Burnout is something that comes from the culture all around the manager. The manager might be looking at their people, looking in the mirror, thinking, well, I'm not the one telling them to do all these things. And yet they're over delivering all the time. And a lot of times the culture is so powerful that the manager is almost powerless to do anything about it. That comes from a lack of onboarding. You're kind of thrown into the deep end and said, well, here's your job. Here are all your deliverables right on day one. Figure it out. And it's kind of like this badge of pride. Well, I onboarded this way. There's no other way. Thrown in the deep end of the pool. That's so cool and tough. But this has an impact. Onboarding is a process. It takes 6 months, it takes 9 months, and there's no way to cut those corners. It's going to take that amount of time and that amount of effort. So if we skip the onboarding in the beginning, it's going to come out on the other end because you're still delivering and onboarding yourself at the same time, which means, what does that mean to your workload? Boing, it goes way up. And that comes out into stress because you want to deliver right away from your first moment. And the leadership above the manager has to deal with this kind of resource maximization ethos. So HR, your human resources, but the resources part is often the part that is really looked at more, let's say, strategically by the people above you. How can we get more out of our people? And the deadlines are getting tighter, expectations are getting higher, acquisition of talent is more interesting to high level leadership than talent retention, even though we all know that retention is much cheaper. It's much better for our culture, much better for our people, but it's sexier to acquire, right? So that's the mindset. Then that's all makes up our culture. So here's our little burn-in checklist. It could be that you are suffering from burn-in. It could also be that that your team is around you. So go ahead and log in to Menti, and we're going to switch over. I'm going to try to do this very smoothly, and hope this works. Here we go. All right. So if you can see this screen, I feel like I'm speaking into like a black hole, but if you can see this, go ahead and log in and start setting up your little user, your user codes and so on. I'll give you just a moment to log in. You can go ahead and give yourself a thumbs up if you can see it. All right. All right. Well, I am having a hard time seeing what's going on, so I'm just going to dive right in and plow in. Are you suffering from burnout? First question is, I regularly log in after dinner just to catch up. Do I do it never as a rule? Do I do it every night? And we're starting to get people in. We're still getting people logging in. So we're at about an 11. And looks like we're right in the middle. So about half of us are logging in every night, or maybe let's see, maybe not every night, but definitely this is a trend. So people are logging in after dinner. We don't switch off our work. We definitely keep our work going. Okay, very, very interesting. Can everybody see the results as I'm doing this? Okay, perfect. Good, good. All right, I'm just gonna plow forward. All right. I dread returning from vacation to a full email inbox. I do this all the time because it's more relaxing to me when I'm on vacation if I can just pop into my email box and just clean up things and just check in. Then I can really relax the next day on vacation. That's more relaxing to me than like switching off and then coming home from my vacation and seeing like 150,000 emails. So, okay. So it looks like right down the middle, 50-50 exactly. We are definitely a significant number of us, 50% of us are logging in during our vacations. That is definitely a significant result here. Okay. I end each project by starting a new one. Now, by this, I mean, I don't take a moment of downtime. I don't build it in a moment to celebrate and celebrate ourselves, celebrate our team, maybe go out, spend like a day or two just kind of saying, ah, I did this and we did this and it worked. And we don't need to just jump straight into the next one, but we can allow ourselves some time to kind of recover from this old project before burning straight into the next one. And it could be that you choose when you pull at your new project. So like in a ticket system, it could also be that your manager is doing this. So this one's a little bit unclear. And sometimes you don't feel like you have control over it. But I see definitely more than half of us are going straight into the cycle like a flywheel. Ooh, quite a bit more than half are just straight starting the new project as the old one ends. Okay. I attend regular check-in meetings even when they are not important, just so I don't miss out. This is workplace FOMO, everybody. We all have this, and I'm guilty of it too. And part of it is because I enjoy the connection with my team members, so it's not necessarily a sign of burn in, but it also can be when you know you're back to back all day long and your meetings are running one after the other. And even if you have nothing crucial to discuss, you still log in because, ooh, there might be that thing. And if I miss out, I'm going to fall behind. That kind of anxiety that drives you into these meetings. So definitely more than half here. Yeah. Okay. And the worst thing is if you're part of these check-in meetings and you have to take notes and you're like, it's not really that important, but I have to take the notes anyway. All right, moving on. So we have way more than half there anyway. Okay. I take on urgent new projects without dropping the old ones. Okay. Now this is kind of a worrying sign here. So when you're at capacity and let's say your burn rate, this is like a programming term, your burn rate is at full and you can't take any more projects, and then something huge comes along, it's like, oh my God, this is a high priority. We have this urgent thing we have to deal with. Do you have the conversation with your manager that says, okay, I'm going to take on that urgent thing? No problem. This is a priority. Which old thing shall I drop so I can accommodate the new thing? We don't have that conversation with our managers. It's a very uncomfortable thing because we don't want to be the one to say, hey, I have boundaries here. And managers don't ask. So a manager won't come on necessarily and say, hey, we've got this urgent thing. You're going to have to take it on. Tell me which of your older, not so urgent projects are you going to drop? So this is something awareness from both sides, both from manager and from the person taking it on. So thank you for sharing. Now get back to work, everybody. You've wasted enough time. All right, that goes for me too. I'm going to switch back to my presentation. I hope this works. You have an amazing, but wow, look at this back end team. It's like driving a Ferrari. You guys are amazing. Now, good news. I think we all kind of took that test and we were like, ooh, that sounds a little worrying to me. It looks like we did have a bit of burn in here, and you could be taking the blame for yourself. Ooh, this is something that I do. I can work on this. Or you could be saying, I try to have my boundaries, but it's my manager that's doing this to me. Or you can say, I am the manager and I kind of inflict this on my people. That's very possible too. But the great news here is it doesn't have to be this way. There are some very small, subtle things, some messaging. There are some ways that you can do this. The good news is that humans, working humans, all basically want the same things out of their job. We want enough flexibility so that we can manage our workflows ourselves. We don't want people breathing down our necks and saying, hey, you logged in at 9 o'clock and you logged out at 6 o'clock. I see your keystrokes. I'm measuring your engagement, blah, blah, blah. We need, in order to work to our capacity, we need to be able to push and pull. I need to stop work from 3 to 5 to pick up the kids and have some family time. And then I will log in from 8 to 10 p.m. That's no problem for me. I have that control. We like to have that stability. We like to have the feeling of growth. We don't want that kind of underfed burnout. We like to feel part of a community, that a team has our back. We like to take ownership of our work. And we, darn it, like to have a little bit of fun doing what we're doing. Just because we work hard doesn't mean we can't have some fun. So the tip that I tell everybody is, when you are part of a team, whether you are in the executionary phase or whether you're managing this team, really open up those listening ears, because hearing burnout, you don't often hear it, right? We are listening, you say, well, okay, you might be taking surveys, you might be doing engagement pulse surveys. I'm sure everyone in HR does this, and these are really, really great. But are we actioning those things that we're hearing? Are we asking repeatedly? Are we taking note? Are we asking again? Are we showing that there's demonstrable change after we have done our listening? And are we listening in the right way? Radical listening is this idea where you use every single opportunity that you have to ask your working community what they want over a variety of channels and delivering as soon as possible. And I mean the tiny things, like, what kind of muffins shall we have for muffin morning? Or do we want to have let's say, a town hall with an open mic this time? Do we want to have 3 pizza gatherings a month or 1 pizza gather? Like, tiny, these sound tiny, but then you immediately action it. My team says blueberry muffins. The next time we have Monday muffins, the team sees blueberry and they say, okay, there's building trust. I told my manager that I like blueberry muffins, and I see blueberry muffins. So if they listen with the small things, they're going to listen with the big things too. And the way you do everything is the way you do everything, large things and small. So there are many different channels that we can open up our listening. We can have these flash polls. We can do it digitally. We can have casual listening. We can have sentiment listening. We can have these big pulse surveys. Those are great. Nothing wrong with that. We can have these kinds of underground deep dive surveys that really give a full picture of what's going on. But there are lots of other tiny ways of listening. Bean voting is this crazy thing where you have like glass jars and a bag of beans and just little things, listed on the beans. In the canteen, what is our favorite food? This is an example that we ran some months back, when I was back doing this role. Do we like Italian food? Do we like Chinese food? Do we like Greek food? Put a bean in the jar. And it's silly, it's ridiculous. But people see, it's very visual. People see, oh, the Italian jar is going up and up and up. Of course, I'm Italian, so it has to be Italian food. And then they see, okay, there are enough beans in that jar. Italian is what we vote. And then they see Italian is delivered. It's this very visual way of seeing that my input is delivering actual results. So it looks silly, it looks ridiculous, very, very effective for your working community. All right. Tip number 2, and a lot of people don't want to hear this: conscious workload reduction. This means we're finding as managers every possible opportunity we can to remove the ridiculous work from our team and just focus on the stuff that matters. Workload reduction. Having that conversation. What can we drop? What is not necessary? Do we have to have slides with transitions and animations every single time we have a team meeting? Do we have to have these rituals embedded to every single conversation, every single meeting that we have? Not necessarily. Do we demand that people come into the office 5 days a week? Every time we demand that people physically appear, we're adding another 2 hours to their workload. And it's not time that they can actually do their work. We're adding it to the entire day that they have. So that's a choice that we make when we're demanding this of people. It's that squeezing a tube of toothpaste. It's going to squeeze out the other side. And when we inflict this kind of stress, whether it's on ourselves or whether it's on our people, this does turn into actual physical health issues. So we're going to see more health problems, more absenteeism, and so on. So I'm told that I have to speed things up. Are we spending too much time on our rituals? Are we able to just pull down our amount of work every single time we can? All right. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about today is the flow state. Are we creating the state for flow? I know we have 5 tips, but I just rambled on too long. But this is very, very important. Our workplaces are really set up to remove concentration from our lives. The flow state is where we all want to be. It's our best way of working. It's when we're completely immersed in an activity and we perform at our best, we feel our best. But when we think about how we actually work, we're getting this incoming beeping and influx of information that we have to respond to right away. Now, we can control this. We can definitely turn off our ringers. We can turn off our incoming messages. When we multitask and we try to do all these different things at the same time, and we open ourselves up to all this incoming chatter, we're stupider. We don't use our full brain. When we transition, we lose about 40% of our brains every single time we transition. And it takes that amount of time to really fill up that full brain from when we transition from one task to another. Here are some very, very simple things we can do to get our focus back. Having those meeting-free days, like a Friday, for instance. Building in moments of silence, having those chunks of time, 2 or 3, where you literally block it out in your calendars. No meetings right now. This is deep work time. Meetings are, as a rule, 45 minutes instead of an hour. And then we look at our tone, our urgency management. How do we use our language? Is everything urgent, urgent, urgent? Or can we say, this is not necessarily urgent. When you have time, this is a task that needs to be done. We don't need to use those little exclamation points if we don't need to. So I'm going to basically wrap it on this last note: is try to build in funny moments. Try to find ways to make it fun for people. I don't mean forced fun, like, filling up people's engagement with things that they really, really don't want to do, but actually using laughter as a means of stress reduction. So I am not sure if people can can hear me, but I'm going to sign off right now and wish you guys an excellent rest of your day.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. That was a really inspirational presentation, and actually made a lot of thought. And well, you mean in nowadays, especially in this quick quick working space, and especially in quick scaling companies and startups, and this is a really big huge problem where people are just working overloads and don't feel it, and then you see the consequences. And actually one of our audience's question also was, we have time for one question, unfortunately.
Great.
But
Excellent.
one of the question from the audiences was, as organizations push for high performance, how can leaders recognize and prevent the burn-in, and before it impacts productivity and well-beings? How can leaders
Indeed.
recognize
Indeed.
before it
This is the
impacts
classic
productivity?
question. It's this tube of toothpaste. So if we squeeze more out of people, there's a certain number of hours in the day that we have. We have about 6 hours a day as humans to do really good, effective, constructive work. And you can't do more than that, right? So you can make people sit at an office for 12 hours a day, but you only really get 6 hours of work out of them. So knowing this, you can kind of squeeze and push. You know your productive times during the day. You can decide, okay, I can make people do more work, but I'm not going to get more than those 6 hours out of them. So knowing this, you can definitely push and pull and say, okay, this is important, this is not important. And just audit, what are you doing all day? What are your actual tasks? What can we take off your plate? I think a great manager is the manager that is asking a high performing team, what can I tell you not to do? What can we remove from your plate? Because I know that you're doing your best. I know that you're a high performing person. Even repeating that often does drive performance higher. My job as a manager is to remove things off your plate that is going to take away from what's really important. What are your highest priorities as a work? What are you here to do? And I want to make sure that you have as much time as you possibly have to do that thing that you're supposed to do, and not all these other little things. Because like learning new platforms and understanding new ways of logging into the new system and the new CRM and recording all these things. I tell people to use AI as much as possible to automate tasks. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, so I'm going to log off now. I
Okay,
hope that
super.
answered your question.
If anyone is watching us right now in the recording, then if anyone, we get the data. Most of us attendees are watching us online because of the time zone differences. But you're pretty open on LinkedIn, right? If anyone wants to connect with you and then talk more intimately
Absolutely.
on these things. Awesome. Okay, I wish you a very productive and an awesome Friday and a great weekend. You deserved it. Thank you for the
Thank
info
you
on your
so much.
presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Super, thank you.